Welcome back to Tipton Bros. Today, we will be going over a group of surplus firearms that I believe are still unappreciated. I will continue making these types of videos in the future, so let me know what you think down in the comments. I'll try my best to differentiate from past lists and present a wide range of options. Again, I am no expert and never claim to be. Let's get into it. Starting out our list at number 5, we have selected the Sauer 38H. The Sauer 38H is a well thought out and sleek blowback handgun crafted and utilized by the Third Reich during the Second World War. Designed in 1938 by J.P. Sauer & Son and produced the very same year, it was a revolutionary pistol to say the least. Many aspects of the Sauer 38H were groundbreaking, starting with its method of construction. Sauer & Son exploited zinc castings for the magazine plate and trigger that greatly sped up production time. The Sauer 38H was also the first handgun to use a cocking/decocking lever, a feature that is still present on some modern-day semi-automatic handguns. The H within its designation stands for hammerless, or in this case, a concealed hammer, shrouded by the rear of the slide. The Sauer 38H was built in decent quantity, with roughly 200,000 being produced in 3 separate calibers, being offered in 32 ACP, 380, and 22 LR. The 38H was issued throughout the conflict, as the German war machine consumed and overlooked all arms production. As the strain of war became more evident by the passing months, the Sauer 38H would be simplified, foregoing its cocking lever and slide-mounted safety. Moreover, these pistols would leave the factory with a rough finish and as few markings as possible, helping with material consumption and production time. Although these pistols did function well, the late war Sauer 38H is a far cry from its former glory of early and pre-war production. In the end, Sauer & Son would cease production of the handgun in 1945 as the Soviets would now occupy the location, and under communist rule, the pistol was no longer deemed necessary. Although a disappointing ending for such an innovative weapon, what makes this circumstance neat for collectors is that all Sauer 38Hs are wartime production. Many can be found with full kit, holster and all. Plus, in the US today, are far more affordable than its counterparts, floating around the $700 to $1,200 mark, depending on condition and rarity. An often forgotten handgun of Nazi Germany that is overshadowed by some of the most iconic weapons of the Reich. It is my hope that the Sauer 38H will soon garner respect as a pioneer of modern handguns and an interesting mark on German history. On to the next pick. Taking our number 4 spot, the Type 26 Revolver. Adopted in 1893 by the Imperial Japanese Army, this was the first modern revolver to be fielded and see widespread use by the island nation of Japan. The Type 26 was given its title because at the time of adoption, in 1893, it was the 26th year of the Meiji period, hence Type 26. Produced at the Koishikawa Arsenal, the Type 26 revolver saw its fair share of carnage, being a participant in the Russo-Japanese War, Second Sino-Japanese War, as well as both World Wars. Although produced at a suitable volume from 1893 until 1945, with an estimated 59,900 being completed, the Type 26 had some glaring issues, the most apparent of which was the cylinder. The cylinder of the Type 26 would not lock up unless the hammer was cocked, allowing for the cylinder to freely revolve, which could lead to it stopping on an empty or already fired chamber. As you may guess, this could have some dire consequences for its user, especially in combat. The second issue with the Type 26 revolver was it was essentially a double action only. Lacking a cocking spur on the hammer, the Type 26 had a horrendously long and heavy trigger pull, on top of already being oversized. This led to terrible accuracy and handling. Although the Type 26 had its flaws, this does not detract from its fascinating past. Chambered in 9x22mm rimmed, this cartridge was also referred to as 9mm Japanese, and is quite like a .38 Smith & Wesson. Physically, the Type 26 is extremely appealing, having distinct lines, a deep blue finish, and beautifully checkered grips. The Type 26 revolvers are relatively few and far between in the US, and can chase anywhere from $800 to $1,400 for nicer examples. If you happen to stumble across a good example of a Type 26, don't hesitate to look it over and possibly consider snagging one of these fine revolvers. At number 3, one of the most unusual entries on the list, the Remington Model 8. While many different variations of this rifle have been produced, such as the Model 81, today I'm going to stick with the history and usage of the Remington Model 8. Invented by John Browning around the turn of the century, he would soon sell the patent to the Remington Arms Company. Remington would quickly turn the Model 8 into the first commercially successful semi-automatic rifle accessible for civilian use. Mainly, the Model 8 saw use by police, as well as sport hunting. While the Model 8 primarily saw civilian use, it was purchased in small numbers by the French Aéronautique Militaire, a service arm of the French Army, during the First World War. Other notable events involving the Remington Model 8 include the ambush of Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. The Remington Model 8 was produced from 1911 to 1936, with approximately 80,000 rifles being finished. The Model 8 is a long recoil operated firearm that employs a rotating bolt head. The barrel and bolt move in unison when recoiling, until the 2 recoil springs are compressed, allowing the barrel to return to a static position, ejecting the spent shell casing. The Model 8 was chambered in 5 calibers, the most popular of which seemed to be .35 Remington. The Remington Model 8 is not only interesting mechanically, but visually, having an out-of-the-box profile that is yet to be replicated. While not super common, they can be found from time to time across the US and unfortunately do fetch a premium. I've seen price ranges from $850 all the way up through $2,000 or more, depending on the example of course. Regardless of this, I hope to one day add a Remington Model 8 to my collection, and I believe you should too. For our number 2 spot on the list, I've selected the Beretta Model 1934. Chambered in .380 ACP, the Beretta Model 1934 was Italy's answer to the Walther PP, a pistol that had previously left a good impression with the Italian army. Adopted in late 1934, as the designation implies, the Beretta M1934 was a simple blowback design, like its predecessor, the Beretta Model 1915. Holding 7+1 in a detachable box magazine and utilizing the ever-present Beretta open slide, this pistol gained a reputation for being rugged and reliable. The Beretta Company, located in the town of Gardone, Italy, was able to churn out approximately 1 million sidearms from 1934 to 1992. Yes, 1992. I thought this was strange as well, but I could not find any information conflicting with its production run. Either way, the Model 1934 served the Kingdom of Italy valiantly. The model of 1934, in addition to the model of 1935, was purchased by Romania and Germany prior to and during the Second World War, seeing extensive use. Additionally, Finland purchased a batch of 1,400 Model 1934s that would see frontline use in the Continuation War. Interestingly, as a side note, a Beretta Model 1934 was used in the assassination of Gandhi, January 30th, 1948. With such a broad and storied past, the Beretta Model 1934 has always been a point of fascination for me. Not only this, but they are a steal of a deal, clocking in at around the $500 mark. To boot, these vintage handguns are still a dime a dozen. Pick one up for yourself and you will immediately recognize what made the Beretta Model 1934 so special. For our honorable mention, the Arisaka Type 38. While I have mentioned the Type 38 in previous videos, the impact and legacy of this rifle cannot be overstated. Adopted in 1905 by the Imperial Japanese Army, it was designated the Type 38, due in part to it being the 38th year of the Meiji period. The Type 38 was a reinvented version of the Type 30. These slight tweaks of the Type 30 were a result of direct combat experience of soldiers in the Russo-Japanese War. Directly after the conflict, Kajiro Nambu went to work, updating and improving the platform as best he could, drastically increasing receiver strength, as well as creating a more positive extraction of empty cartridge cases. With this new rifle, dubbed the Type 38, the Japanese Empire was nearing the cusp of becoming a global superpower. While long at roughly 50 inches in length, the Type 38 was well liked, being a flat-shooting and easy-to-handle rifle, chambered in 6.5 Arisaka. Japanese soldiers tended to be smaller in stature, so the light recoil of the Type 38 suited the Empire of Japan well. An estimated 3.4 million rifles, including its variants, were completed between 1906 and 1945. In 1939, the Arisaka Type 99 would be adopted by the Empire of Japan, although production of the Type 38 would not cease until the end of the war in August 1945. The Type 38 would venture around the world, even seeing use in the Korean War, not to mention scattered use in Vietnam. The Type 38 is still easily accessible, as it was produced in such high quantities, and can be obtained at a reasonable cost. A Type 38 will usually stay around the $400 to $700 mark. And as with all Arisaka type rifles, such qualities as an intact mum and original dust cover will drive the price up. Furthermore, as with any surplus firearm, matching numbers and condition are a contributing factor. I myself own multiple Type 38 Arisakas, and to this day continue to be awestruck by the quality and craftsmanship of these fine warhorses. A Type 38 would not soon disappoint. One of my personal favorite pistols holds our top spot, the Savage Model 1907. Produced by Savage Arms out of Utica, New York, from 1907 until 1920, these peculiar pistols were beloved by many, being a marketing success. Designed in 1905 by Albert Cyril, this pocket pistol was derived from a full-size 45 caliber semi-automatic handgun that went head-to-head in the 1906 to 1911 U.S. Army trials. As one would surmise, the Savage pistol would fall short, ultimately being bested by the Colt Model 1911. While disappointing for Cyril, this was nothing to scoff at. So, he decided to switch gears, testing the design on the civilian market. Scaling down the full-size variant to accommodate 32 ACP, Cyril will go on a marketing tirade, using the slogan, 10 shots quick, in his advertisement, as well as many celebrity endorsements. This helped propel the Savage line of pistols, which would quickly gain a reputation for reliability and ease of use. While the Model 1907 would be the first commercial success, Savage would go on to produce two more variants, those being the Model 1915 and the Model 1917, which would be produced until 1928. The Model 1917 would be produced in both 32 ACP and 380. While the Savage line of pistols thrived generally on the civilian market, the Model 1907 did see a substantial purchase of 40,000 pistols by the French government at the outbreak of World War I. That contract was fulfilled between 1914 and 1917, Functionally, the Savage pistol is a delayed blowback with a detachable box magazine and has the unique quality of using no screws. Even the grips snap into place. Aesthetically, these pistols boast an odd profile and deep but short slide serrations. Although the Savage pistols physically look to be hammer-fired, they are in fact striker-fired, with the so-called hammer being the cocking piece. These slick pistols are not only interesting, but affordable and still abundant. They can be found for the sensible price of about $600, depending of course on condition and model. I would highly recommend this aging classic to any Milsurp enthusiast. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Again, if you disagree with anything I have said, or have a question, please feel free to drop it down in the comments. I am no expert and never claim to be. A like is greatly appreciated, and we hope to see you again on Tipton Bros.